Oh, my brother, testify.
And Snow stops everything so he can bring out a Mexican dressed up like a wedge of cheese. And Al starts chanting, "Let's go, head cheese," while the Mexican in the cheese wedge costume starts slapping his ass. Oh, the cheese costume was ass. Some unholy reason.
This was a cluster. Good luck keeping up with all the that happened in this match. If you're one of the people who like scientific wrestling and you judge your matches off star ratings, you might as well turn the page on this match.
And then China gets tagged in while Eddie's the legal man. Eddie flees to his corner. Malenko and Saturn go for China. China hits them with a double clothesline. Then she tries to grab Eddie, who flees again. China takes out Saturn and Malenko with a right forearm. She scoop slams Saturn and Malenko. Then she does a handspring flip thing to Saturn, then to Malenko, while each man was in the corner. Then she gestures for both Saturn and Malenko to approach her in the middle of the ring so she can get down on both of her knees and kick them both in the dick. Skip to the end after that.
You write down like a dream match. These are people who are going to be in it.
Well, I guess that brings us to our Wrestling Rewind.
Retro Review.
And this week is WrestleMania 2000 or 16. And we're now in Anaheim, California. And Lillian Garcia, as far as I remember, made her WrestleMania debut. She sang the greatest song ever written, but she also made me miss Boyz II Men, if I'm being honest. Keith David narrated the intro for a nice little video package. And then they must have ran out of money because another dude ran out the matches, especially the Fatal 4-Way Elimination match. It's The Rock, Mankind, The Giant, and Triple H, with a McMahon in each corner. And we'll learn that the McMahons settle their differences through violence, or at least Vince, because he's shown hitting all of them. And we also learned that Triple H didn't waste any time putting a ring on Stephanie's finger after she started coming around. This is her WrestleMania debut, by the way.
Well, remember, they had that Vegas wedding where she was passed out?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, then she started to come around.
Yeah, Hunter.
Because she was supposed to marry Kane.
That sounds right.
Yeah, she was supposed to marry Kane, and he's like...
No. She was supposed to marry Test.
Oh, yeah, Test. That's who it was. It's like, well, you can't get married because you're already married.
And yeah, Stephanie hated it at first, but then she got the Stockholm Syndrome. And then they became a powerful couple. This also explains why China is teaming with Too Cool later.
Yep, this was around the time where it became a thing.
The Godfather and D-Lo come out with Ice-T. Ice-T comes out rapping about the trials and tribulations of pimping. And I honestly forgot that Ice-T does music. Ice-T tells everybody to grab their bitches. And this is the early version of The Godfather, which is so much better. I hated the peacock colors and shit, but I like the white and the sequins and whatever.
The way oversized shirt.
Yeah. With the cowboy boots and the fucking baggy pants. It just looked uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the hair. Just everything about him was just inconvenient for wrestling. It's a great look. The Godfather tells us to light up a blunt and says pimpin' ain't easy. And yeah, Ice-T, all he did was say pimpin', pimpin', pimpin' ain't easy. Pimpin', pimpin', pimpin' ain't easy. And we got to see the hose for the first time. They just kind of walked around, didn't really do anything. They didn't even form a train.
I was sad that I didn't get to hear the Godfather's whole train music.
Yeah, it was good shit. Well, D-Lo and the Godfather faced Bull Buchanan and the Big Boss Man. And Boss Man survived his lynching at the hands of The Undertaker last year, so that was good.
And last week when we were talking about the WrestleMania coming up, and I said, well, who won't be on the card? Big Boss Man. And I was like, how's he back already? Did they do like a seance or something? We saw him die.
I wouldn't be surprised if he was on the next Raw.
Just there.
Yeah. I sure did lose.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, Godfather's wrestling in ridiculous attire, but it works. JR suggested that Godfather may have worn that attire in private. D-Lo knocked Buchanan on his ass, told him he sucked. And we learned that the Aggression CD came out at this time. Also, the XFL is in its infancy.
Aggression CD is underrated.
Well,
maybe it's not underrated. It's a pretty good album.
Yeah, I think that was the only album that they had that was worth anything.
like the Stone Cold Disturbed and
Method Man with The Rock.
yeah, 3-6 Mark Henry's, which he still uses. Like, nope, that's gonna be it for me. I don't need a new song.
Well, Bossman and Buchanan literally went out of nowhere with a Bossman slam and a leg drop. And Bossman and Buchanan chase off the hose. Not really much of a match. But there was a moment where Buchanan crotched himself on the ropes really poorly. Like some people look like they just fall. He clearly just sat on the ropes gingerly.
Well, I guess to balance that out, and again, this Bull Buchanan guy is easily 300 pounds. And there's a moment he, from the ground, leapt up a la LA Knight to the top rope and then did a springboard clothesline off of that. So that was pretty impressive.
I just think it's a damn dirty shame that they didn't keep this version of The Godfather. They had to clean him up. Make him safe for TV. Come on, pal. I gotta have white people like him too. Triple H and Stephanie had a backstage segment, and this is the first time we're seeing the power couple. And they just brag about being married and having championship belts. And Triple H is the WWF champion. Stephanie is the newly crowned women's champion. And I would so eat a sweet potato pie off of Stephanie.
Yeah, this is definitely prime Stephanie McMahon.
Yeah, it is.
I saw someone on the Twitter machine. They were like, remember when Stephanie McMahon was hot? And I was like, even today, she ain't bad.
She's just older.
I'd still get it.
Oh, yeah.
No disrespect to Triple H, of course.
Stephanie, yeah. They cut to earlier footage. The referees are going over the hardcore battle royal rules with the wrestlers. The only thing I really got from this is Taz is in the WWF, and he looked like a rebellious teenager. And based off the rules, the WWF assures us that this will be a clusterfuck.
Boy, was it.
So that brings us to the hardcore battle royal. Our participants are Taz, Viscera, the Mean Street Posse, because they have to come out as one, Hardcore Holly, Kai and Tai. I didn't understand why they came out as teams for a singles title. Headbangers, and the Acolytes, and then Crash Holly, who's the champion. And he uses Hardcore Holly's music.
Which I did like.
Yeah. And the rules is it's a 15-man Iron Man match. Whoever has the belt at the end is a champion. And Taz pinned Crash immediately. Viscera immediately pinned Taz. No wonder he never did anything. Crash got blood. Bradshaw beat the fuck out of everyone with a cookie sheet. And then he powerbombed Taka, which was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. He just picked that little fucker up and slammed his ass to the mat. Farouk breaks a 2x4 over Viscera's back. And then Bradshaw nails him with a shoulder tackle from the top rope. And then for some reason, APA makes Kai and Tai cover Viscera. And Funaki is named the champion. And Taka and Funaki start fighting. Funaki then runs away with the Japan flag and everyone chases him. Like, I thought they were going to have Kai and Tai pin him so that APA could just beat the shit out of him.
Mm-hmm.
But no, they just had them cover him for no reason whatsoever. There's still 7 minutes left at this point. Mean Street Posse pinned Funaki. Then they pinned each other. Headbanger pinned the Mean Street Posse. Man, the Headbangers. Looks like they've been hanging out with Gold Dust.
That's that gothic stuff.
That ain't gothic. That's... They're wearing brassieres and shit.
That's that goth stuff. You don't understand.
Okay.
It's like the Marilyn Manson crowd, or they get real weird.
Well, then they all fight back to the ring. Mean Street Posse gets the belt back after hitting a Headbanger with the fire extinguisher. And Mean Street Posse is bleeding. I don't know which one it is. Taz pinned Mean Street Posse, and Hardcore Holly kicked Taz in the head while he was making the pin. That just was funny. Taz keeps trying to pin people as champion like an idiot instead of preserving his championship. I don't know what that was all about.
He probably didn't know what the hell was going on.
That makes sense. Crash pins Taz with 30 seconds left. Taz gets Crash into a Taz mission until there's 10 seconds left. Hardcore Holly comes with a jar of candy, smashes it over Taz and Crash, smashes it over their heads. And Holly wins. The ref count was awkward as fuck. And JR and the King are confused because they think Crash won somehow. JR is screaming that Crash got his shoulder up. And Crash was as lifeless as Hulk Hogan was in that one pay-per-view. What happened was the referee didn't slap his hand on the mat on the 3 count.
Yeah, he didn't count the 3. I guess it was supposed to be a thing where the time runs out, but it didn't. So the ref just stopped the count. But then he still awarded Hardcore Holly the title.
Yeah,
But I
I
would
don't know.
say you did pretty good on that whole thing. As my notes is, this was a clusterfuck. Good luck keeping up with all the shit that happened in this match. But Hardcore Holly won at the end.
There you go. I do a lot of skipping for the modern stuff, so if I'm going to put any dedication into one thing, it's going to be the stuff I like.
There you go.
And they did a WrestleMania fan access spot. China and Y2J said how awesome it was. Marlena and Big Show and other wrestlers were there. I ended up fast forwarding to the end because it was a long fucking segment.
It was really just filler.
Boy, was it.
The highlight of it was Marlena had underboob showing.
Yeah. Well, then we see a close-up of a pair of tits.
From what? Underboob to overboob.
Yes. And of course, it can only be Trish Stratus. I don't know. I think people forget that that's all she was a pair of tits until they try to convince us that she knew how to wrestle. But that's
solidified it. I mean, they were good. Don't give it.
I'm not throwing shade, but that's all she was known for her tits. TNA, showing off her tits, and she was eye candy. The definition of it. It kind of makes me cringe when they say that how she's a legend, but she's not really.
Well, she became women's champion. Her and Lita had so many back and forth matches.
Yeah. Lita was okay.
She was.
I mean, fuck, marry, kill. Lita ain't walking away. Anyway, so Steve Blackman and Al Snow are facing TNA. Earlier, Blackman and Snow had a moment in the bathroom. Something Al didn't want Steve to know about, flushed a toilet. And Blackman told Al to quit screwing around. And Blackman and Snow come out to African tribal music. And Snow stops everything so he can bring out a Mexican dressed up like a wedge of cheese. And Al starts chanting, "Let's go head cheese," while the Mexican in the cheese wedge costume starts slapping his ass. Oh, the cheese costume was assless for some unholy reason.
Yes.
Somebody took the time to make an assless cheese wedge costume. God knows why.
It's contextual to the time we were in, I guess.
No, there's no context. There's no time for an assless cheese wedge costume. I want to know what its original purpose is for.
I don't know.
All right. Well, Test won out of nowhere with an elbow drop. The wedge of cheese kept trying to fondle Stratus throughout the match. After the match, Snow gets on the mic, tells Blackman he was right. The guy dressed up as a wedge of cheese was a stupid idea. No shit. Then Snow brings the cheese into the ring, says it's time to cut the cheese. And then Snow hits the cheese with the microphone. I thought it was kind of cool how so many decades earlier than Tony Khan's emergence into the wrestling scene, and they had sound effects for the microphone strike.
They did.
And then it had another sound effect when he threw it down. So then Snow holds up the cheese so Blackman can assassinate him with a running scissor kick. And then they both do their double team backbreaker leg drop combo to the wedge of cheese. Believe it or not, that's not the worst segment.
Well, I actually it kind of picked up after this. For me, at least.
Fair enough. Well, the Cat and Fabulous Moolah have a segment. Cat's naked. She's getting ready for a match, I guess. And Moolah keeps doing sight gags where her arm covers her tits and she has a pussy towel to cover her pussy.
It was a
shirt,
sweater.
I'm sorry. And Cat asks for water, so Moolah can hand her 2 bottles of water that cover her tits. By the way, Austin Powers did that 3 years before this WrestleMania. But at least the cat was sexy.
That's what I wrote down. They did the Austin Powers stick.
It wasn't even timely, though. The 4th Austin Powers movie was already out.
I mean, they did that with pretty much every Austin Powers movie at some point, though.
Well, we have a tag team title ladder match. And it's Edge and Christian versus the Hardy Boys versus the Dudley Boys. And before the match, Cole interviews the Dudley Boys. And really weird that no one looks at the camera, not once. Devon says the WWF has had it out for the Dudleys, and it's evident by putting them in this ladder match. Devon hates ladders, and he hates heights, but the Dudleys will remain the WWF Tag Team Champions. And Bubba Ray says that the Dudleys are taking WrestleMania, and the ladder match to a whole new level of violence. And when the dust settles and the Dudleys are walking away with their titles, it'll be then that the Hardys and Edge and Christian realize that thou shalt not with the Dudleys. And Devon yells, testify.
Oh, my brother, testify.
It's also worth noting that Devon was staring intently at Cole the entire interview.
Yes.
Edge and Christian kick the match off by attacking the Hardys when the Dudleys come out. Devon gets Matt Hardy in a leg drop on the ladder, and Devon starts convulsing. Jeff Hardy tried to do a 450 splash to Bubba Ray, but missed, landed on the ladder. Looked like it hurt a lot. I think he even screamed. It's like, ah! Can't say I blame him. Edge paid homage to Shawn Michaels by riding the ladder down to land on Matt Hardy. Jeff Hardy climbed the ladder, and Edge climbed the top rope and speared Hardy off the ladder, which was a cool little spot. It's not the best ladder spear, but it's still a cool one. Matt Hardy does a sit-down Razor's Edge to Edge. That's probably a sit-down Splash Mountain. Bubba hit Christian with a 3D from the top of the ladder just before Bubba punched Christian square in the left ass cheek. Also, for some reason, they needed to set up 3 ladders for the spot. I don't get it. Like, it looked like he set it up on the wrong side. Said, oh shit, now I need to set up a 3rd ladder. Matt Hardy and Christian worked together to deliver a leg drop splash combination to Bubba Ray from the top of ladders. And Devon got suplexed from the top of a ladder by Edge and Christian. It seemed like really tame in comparison to the other spots we've seen so far. And everyone starts climbing a ladder. And then Christian and Jeff Hardy are the first to fall off their ladder to the outside of the ring. Then Edge pushes Bubba off his ladder, who falls into the ropes and uses the momentum to push the other 2 ladders down, which was pretty anticlimactic for them to all just climb up to fall.
The first 2 who fell outside of the ring, they got
True.
The worst of it.
Yeah, you're right.
No table, no nothing. Just right outside the ring they go.
Well, Edge gets a proper 3D in the middle of the ring. Then the Dudleys say, get the tables! Then the Dudleys stand up 2 ladders and place a table on top of them. And then more tables get set up. Devon does a splash to Jeff Hardy through a table in the ring. Can't tell if Jeff rolled out of the way or not. Bubba set up a table in front of the Spanish announce desk and then power bombs Matt Hardy from the announce desk through a table. And Jeff Hardy tried to do some parkour shit, and Bubba just throws a ladder in his face. Bubba was the only one left standing, so he sets up a ladder in the middle of the entrance ramp instead of trying to win the tag belts, which was really irritating. And Bubba gets yet another table, sets it up in front of the entrance ramp ladder, and it looks like Jeff Hardy is about to get it. But Christian makes the save with the ring bell. And somehow Bubba ends up on the table. Jeff climbs the ladder and hits Bubba with a swanton through the table. And then back in the ring, Matt Hardy hits Devon with a twist of fate. Matt and Christian start climbing ladders. By the way, the table's still placed on top of them. And Matt and Christian are punching each other on top of the ladder table thing. Then Edge climbs up behind Matt Hardy just as Matt grabs onto one of the title belts. And Edge pushes Matt off the ladder table into another table. And Edge and Christian grab the tag titles for the win. And Bubba's dumbass looks stunned for some reason.
Because he lost the titles.
He could have won them.
But the one big thing, my big takeaway, I mean, I knew it, but, actually seeing it, the Dudleys are the one responsible for the crowd nowadays being table thirsty.
Yeah.
They came out with a table, and then the Devon, get the tables. This isn't even about the pay-per-view right now, but I remember that one time they put Mae Young through the table, and he had that,
orgasmic trance.
Yes.
He's just on an orgasmic trance.
Yeah, and he was just sitting there for the longest time, just
sick son of a bitch.
But yeah, I remember that. But this ladder match, I enjoyed it. This wasn't the one that I thought I had remembered. I think they run it back and there's stacked tables, so it gets even more hardcore than this. But this was a good ladder match.
Yeah, it wasn't bad at all.
I've heard people say the Dudley Boys are like the best tag team in history. And yeah, just seeing them back, I can see why people said that now.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. I was actually rooting for them.
I was too. I thought they were going to win.
Yeah. Well, some dude talks to Mick Foley and Linda McMahon. Dude says that this could be Mick's final WWF match. And Linda's happy to help Mick fulfill a lifelong dream of main eventing WrestleMania. Too bad she couldn't do the same thing for Punk. Mick says that this is the biggest match of the year, which is the biggest match in WWF history, which makes this the biggest match in WrestleMania history, which makes this the biggest match of his career. And Mick thanks Linda for a second opportunity to make a last impression. Mick hasn't main evented any other Manias, so I can only assume he's talking about his guest referee spot last year. And Mick says he wants people talking about this match 10 years from now. Sorry, Mick.
This ain't the one.
Nope. They talk about the McMahon in every corner, and it's not in a positive light. And then Mick says that it's all like a fairy tale. Triple H, Rock, Big Show. Fairy tales can come true. It can happen to you, but it won't. Tonight, and what could be the final match of my career, fairy tales will come true for me. Bang, bang. So Mick's hyped.
He sure is.
Marlena with the Fabulous Moolah versus the Cat with Mae Young in a special cat fight. Finkel explains that the first person to throw their opponent out of the ring and onto the floor will be victorious. And Val Venus comes out as the special guest referee. Val has a ref towel. There's a sign in the front row that says, May, please don't show your puppies.
Haha, you got let down.
Venus says that he has a lot in common with WrestleMania. Both are the largest extravaganza of all time. Both will get your blood pumping. But the only difference is WrestleMania comes once a year. Val Venus comes every single night. And Kat comes out with the best wrestling outfit ever. Mae Young slaps hands with the fans. Oh, Mae Young. The match starts with Marlena and the Cat fighting over who gets to hit on Venus. Venus separates the ladies and Marlena says, oh, yeah? Well, I'm just going to smooch you. And of course, Venus is into it. Then Venus sees the Cat, tosses Marlena to the mat. I wouldn't blame him. And the Cat says, oh, yeah, I can be a whore too. Starts laying it on Venus. And the Cat tells Marlena, how do you like that? Marlena grabs the Cat by the head, and unfortunately, they didn't kiss. I was kind of disappointed.
By the way, I just want you to point out real quick. Howard Finkel, he said, this next match is a cat fight. And then the crowd, like, popped so much.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, they're popping for a women's match. Imagine that.
Oh, this ain't a woman's match.
I mean, it was. Again, context to the time when women were getting objectified, but I don't know why I put that in quotes. They were getting objectified. Very much so. But the crowd enjoyed it, and they popped for it. And I bet you they wasn't a piss break.
They applied for the job, and they took it. I don't know how much you can be objectified when it's a voluntary occupation.
We could probably ask some Hooters girls that question.
Maybe. Marlena does devil horns with her fingers to the crowd, and then Kat hits what they called a spear. And Mae Young, for no reason whatsoever, gets on the apron and tries to show everyone her tits. And Venus, rightfully using his referee powers, shuts that shit down. But while that happens, Kat throws Marlena out of the ring. But Venus never saw it. Kat yells at Venus, I just threw her out of the ring. Venus doesn't give a shit. May I swear to God, you stay there, don't move. Venus's priorities were in the right place. May chases Moolah in and out of the ring, then interferes in the match by pulling Marlena's hair. Then May kisses Venus. JR says May just stuck her tongue in the mouth of Venus. The Cat throws Marlena out of the ring again, but May still has Venus locked in a smooch. Then Moolah drags the Cat out of the ring, throws Marlena back in. Venus sees this, and then rings the bell. So to recap, Cat and Marlena both kissed Venus. May distracted the referee twice and cost Kat, who she was supposed to be supporting, the match. Moolah interferes once and it helps her buddy Marlena win. May then attacks Moolah and Marlena from behind. Then she starts doing a slow old lady crotch chops to everybody. And then she hits Moolah with a slow old lady Bronco Buster. And JR says, that's the oldest Bronco Buster in captivity. Kat calls Marlena a stupid hussy and starts ripping her pants off. And finally, we get to see an ass worth looking at. And the Cat's music plays like the Oscars when they play somebody off. This was an embarrassment. I don't know what the fuck Mae Young was doing. She was running around like a fucking retard, just ruining everything.
Yeah, it was cluster. The best part of it was when they were setting up the match, JR said, If you're one of the people who like scientific wrestling and you judge your matches off star ratings, you might as well turn the page on this match.
Well,
I was like, oh, Meltzy was doing his thing back in 2000, huh?
oh, he's been around for a while.
Oh, yeah, you said since like the 80s.
Yeah, well, I think longer than that, maybe.
It was just funny that JR was like, if you're a wrestling purist who likes to judge your matches based off of star ratings, don't even watch this match.
Well, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, and Perry Saturn have a segment. They're making their WrestleMania debut. Dean is currently the WWF lightweight champion. And he says it's Too Cool's final chapter, and they're going to break Too Cool's legs. And Eddie just wants to fuck China. And Perry says Eddie's not the only good-looking guy in the group, but tonight they'd better win. Then Eddie says he's going to lay it all his Latino heat on China. China and Too Cool are watching everything. China vomits in her mouth. Brian Christopher says, don't worry about that. Tonight it's time to kick it. So the Radicals, Saturn, Malenko, and Guerrero, face Too Cool and China. China had a cannon, which is kind of cool. And I'm not going to lie, China would look pretty sexy here.
Yeah, she wasn't bad.
Eddie and Scotty 2 Hotty start the match. Eddie was winking at China and blowing kisses, and then he takes his shirt off and tosses it to her. Scotty 2 Hotty buries the moonwalk, and unfortunately, Malenko had to sell for China. Saturn takes Christopher's do-rag off that has braids affixed to it. He puts it on and then starts stomping him. Eddie then attacks China from behind and then slams her head into the ring post, illustrating what a relationship with a Latino man is all about. And then we saw the stupid worm. And then China gets tagged in while Eddie's the legal man. Eddie flees to his corner. Malenko and Saturn go for China. China hits them with a double clothesline. Then she tries to grab Eddie, who flees again. China takes out Saturn and Malenko with a right forearm. She scoop slams Saturn and Malenko. Then she does a handspring flip thing to Saturn, then to Malenko, while each man was in the corner. Then she gestures for both Saturn and Malenko to approach her in the middle of the ring so she can get down on both of her knees and kick them both in the dick. Skip to the end after that. China's team won. She eventually kicked Eddie's ass too. What the fuck?
I knew you weren't going to like that she was basically took over the match when she got in. It did seem like they cut it short. She pins Eddie Guerrero off of a sleeper hold drop, but she's pretty heavily wardrobe malfunctioned here. Like her pants were just falling off. Like you could see crack.
Maybe she wasn't doing
even her panties
handspring
were falling
flips
off. Her pants had like a rivet that was holding the side, and that broke. So her pants were literally falling off, and then yeah, she was like holding her pants up and still doing all this shit.
Stupid.
Yeah, and then she did the sleeper hold drop finish, and it just seemed like it was like, okay, my pants are, I can't. I'm about to show people my thumb. I got to get out of here.
Put yourself in the place of Malenko, Saturn, and Guerrero. They were in WCW. They made a name for themselves. They got over, but they knew that very well that there was a glass ceiling because Hogan and the NWO were the priority and the younger guys weren't. So they went to the WWF because they thought that they would get an actual chance to prove themselves as wrestlers. And their first fucking match, well, not their first match, but their first fucking WrestleMania, all three of them are getting their ass whooped by China. And to spread salt in the wounds, she gets down on her knees in the middle of the fucking WWF ring and kicks both of them in the balls. If that is not, we don't give a fuck about you, I don't know what is.
Yeah, I was kind of disappointed that they did lose, especially that being their WrestleMania debut.
And it's clear that Eddie got to where he got in WWF because of Eddie and not because of any support from the company, because he was a part of that. He was getting his ass kicked by China too. He overcame.
He was. And Perry Saturn will go on to have a relationship with the Mop.
Yep.
And I think Dave Malenko just flat out just he just got kept off TV. He didn't even get a gimmick.
That's sad too, because Malenko's fucking awesome. Well, they had a segment where some white trash bitch and her husband won WrestleMania tickets. It was all expenses paid. It was her first plane ride. And I wonder if the champagne and strawberries were high end or if they went to Walmart or something to get them.
Well, it's actually funny. I wrote down that some white trash ass family got WrestleMania tickets.
There you go.
Hmm. I actually did try to like Google them. I wonder if they got out of the trailer park after that, or if they're still in it. So I tried to Google them, but
What,
no luck.
winning WrestleMania tickets would make them successful?
I don't know. And there's like 800 people in their house too. And I'm not talking about the camera crew. I'm talking about the family. There's like
Mm.
800 people in there.
Well, the Giant and Shane McMahon have a segment. Shane says Giant is the next champion. I'm not calling him the Big Show, by the way. Vinnie
And
Mac and McMahon Helmsley dynasties are old news. Now the Giant is on Shane's side. Shane's mom is going to be collateral damage. And Giant says tonight the most electric man in sports entertainment gets unplugged. Foley will retire for good. And as far as Triple H goes, game over. Then Shane and Giant go their separate ways. Y2J, Chris Benoit, and Kurt Angle had a 2-fall triple threat match for the European and Intercontinental titles. And we learned that this match is Bob Backlund's fault. Backlund's mentoring Angle. They signed him up to defend both belts in one match. And Angle is rightfully pissed. He gets Backlund in a crossface chicken wing. Angle's then shown asking a very large man for extra security in exchange for Kurt Angle's autograph for the large man's children. The large man doesn't get to answer. And the first fall is for the Intercontinental title. And the second fall is for the European Championship. And Y2J comes out, says that he and everyone in the crowd have been waiting their entire lives for this moment. Y2J doesn't know if he's walking away with both belts, even one belt, but he guarantees he's walking out of this wrestling bout the Ayatollah of rock and rolla. Y2J also guarantees that Kirk Angel, Byrne, and Mr. Roboto are walking away with bumps and bruises and a shirt that says, I visited Anaheim and all I got was this lousy shirt and a Y2J beating that I will never, ever forget again. He's corny.
I was gonna say, so he's starting his Jericho-isms. I mean, I like him.
I don't know. He just seems really corny to me. I liked him in WCW. We haven't seen like the list of Jericho and all that shit. And Rufus.
That's old Jericho. List of Jericho. You just made the list.
Well, no, there was a segment he had on Nitro where he had the scroll. I said it wrong. I said list of Jericho. He had this big old scroll and he was listing all the holds he knew because he was trying to prove he knew more holds than Malenko.
I think I remember that. Well, I don't know about the scroll, but I do remember, yeah, he was trying to prove they knew more holds.
I thought it was crazy that this was all of their WrestleMania debuts. It was an awesome match right out of the gate. All three came to play. Angle stun gunned Jericho into the steel steps, and I wrote, Jesus Christ. Angle did a beautiful transition into a chicken wing on Jericho. Man, he's just fucking phenomenal. Benoit saves Jericho, tosses Angle out of the ring, then over the barricade. And Benoit hits a diving headbutt onto Jericho to win the Intercontinental title. And Angle gets crotched on the ropes by Jericho. Jericho follows Angle up top, but gets crotched by Benoit. Then Benoit gets a belly-to-back suplex on Jericho from the top rope. Angle tries and fails to hit a moonsault on Benoit. And I'm glad they didn't like have Benoit just German suplex both of them like they would do today.
I did think that's where they were going
Right.
with that.
Same. And Jericho got Angle in the walls of Jericho, and I can't believe he had the audacity to use Benoit's move right in front of him. And Jericho almost decapitates Benoit with a spinning heel kick, and he hits a double power bomb onto Angle, and then Benoit grabs Jericho for a rolling German. Angle barely makes the save, and then Benoit hits a dragon suplex onto Angle. Angle clearly has his shoulders up, but the ref counts the pin anyway. JR takes this opportunity to bring up the controversial finish of the Hardcore Battle Royal, where Crash's shoulders were clearly on the mat and unmoved.
He couldn't let it go.
No, just give it a rest, JR. It's not happening. It's like he's almost convincing himself. I know I saw a controversial finish. Jericho tries to hit Benoit with a diving forearm, but he takes the ref out instead. And then Benoit locks Jericho in the crossface, which makes him tap out, but there's no ref. And Benoit tries to wake the ref up by screaming, "Ref! Ref!" and slapping him in the back of the head. This didn't work, by the way. And Jericho gets the walls of Jericho on Benoit. And I wrote, now the disrespect is so blatant. Angle nails Jericho with one of the title belts. And Benoit pulls Jericho out of the ring, then tries and fails to hit a diving headbutt to Angle. Jericho comes in with a lion salt to Benoit, 1, 2, 3. So after the match, Angle's pissed off that he lost both of his belts without losing a single fall. And I think he's still undefeated.
I don't know. But yes, he didn't get pinned here, so it could be.
It's a good match.
It was a good match. I was excited. I was like, wow, you write down like a dream match. These are people who are going to be in it.
Right. And you know it's going to be a good match. Like, say what you want
Yeah.
about Chris Jericho. His matches are usually really good, especially when he's in there with really good people.
Especially this Jericho.
Mm-hmm. He's got something to
And I
prove.
was thinking, because this was the Y2J, and like from what he was in WCW to now, they did present him as like a big deal.
They did. If I remember correctly, he was one of the first. They were jumping to WCW from WWF quite often, but not too many people were going the other way around. I know like the Big Boss Man did, but it's Big Boss Man.
Yeah, this was
No
like
disrespect.
the big wave coming.
Right.
And then they had that whole thing about the Y2K. Did he debut on January 1st? I don't remember, but
I don't either.
I remember they did the countdown. Boom, boom.
Yeah, they
we
did the
didn't know who was
teases for a
going on.
while. He was big from the get-go, which was even more disappointing with how you see they treated Perry and Malenko and Guerrero to begin with.
Yeah, he was definitely treated bigger than them.
I don't think he was
what
better
happened
than
if
them.
Perry? Yeah, I don't know why they picked him I mean, ended up being him and Guerrero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Benoit, you know.
Right.
And Saturn had a mop as a spouse, so they really gave up on him.
They didn't even try. Well, Cole's backstage with Vince McMahon, and Cole asks Vince if he's going to be a factor in the main event. And Vince says, "You bet your ass I am." But The Rock's confident with or without Vince McMahon being present. And Cole asks about the other McMahons being in the separate corners. And Vince says he doesn't agree with the dysfunctional label his family has been given, but he guaranteed to make it right tonight. And I guess Triple H and Stephanie were watching because Triple H says it's not about what's right, it's about who's the best. And Triple H says he's not losing because he's the game. He is that damn good. And Stephanie's panties get wet. Sweet potato pie. A Road Dogg and X-Pac with Tori faced Rikishi and Kane with Paul Bearer, who is now Kane's father. They didn't really explain any of that.
And he slimmed up a little bit, so that's good for him.
I didn't really notice.
Yeah, he's a little smaller.
And I guess DX are still a thing, even though Triple H hasn't mentioned them at all. JR says Rikishi will back that ass up. And before the match starts, Bearer tells Tori that she can go to hell with his hands on his hips. And then Tori slaps Bearer, and then he says he should kick her ass. And Road Dogg stink-faced right away. Tori gets in the ring for no reason with Rikishi. She sees Rikishi, falls on her ass, and then scoots into the corner. But X-Pac saved her from the stink face. And X-Pac hit a Bronco Buster on Rikishi after neutralizing him with his karate.
Big karate this time.
We learned that Jesse the Body Ventura is the governor of Minnesota at this time. And Kane's a big motherfucker.
He is. And John, too.
Yeah, I think he's bigger than Undertaker. Not like height-wise, but like girth and
thickness.
Yeah, he looks like a big fucking red monster. Bearer snatches Tori and throws her in the ring. Kane snatches her for a choke slam, but thinks twice about it and throws her roughly into the corner. Rikishi, who has failed to shove the faces of both Tori and X-Pac in his ass all match, gets the nod. And Tori is finally stink-faced. X-Pac hits a tombstone by Kane, 1, 2, 3. Kane finally got his revenge. And after the match, Too Cool come out to celebrate with Kane and Rikishi. And Brian Christopher and Scotty 2 Hardy start clapping, and the crowd claps. Then a goddamn chicken comes to the ring, and everyone assumes it's Pete Rose. Chicken starts clapping too, with Too Cool. And then Too Cool get the sunglasses for Rikishi. Rikishi, Too Cool, and the chicken start dancing. After the dance, Kane, who has been standing unmoving in the corner the entire time, just attacks the chicken. And then Pete Rose comes from behind Kane with a baseball bat, but is saved by Rikishi, and Kane choke slams Pete Rose. For some reason, Paul Bearer does DX crotch chops to and then Too Cool grabs and drags an unconscious Pete Rose into the corner so Rikishi can give him a stink face as well. And then Bearer high fives everyone. And Kane leaves with Rose's bat. Then he stops, shakes his head, gets back in the ring so he can do his pyro. Then he leaves. And the biggest disappointment I have is at no point did they address how Kane and Rikishi became a team.
They sure didn't.
How the fuck does this dancing fuck team with the big red monster?
Who's still going through it at this time.
Right.
I am glad, when they started to do the Too Cool dance part, the crowd started chanting for Kane. And I was like, please don't have him dance.
Right. I
So,
thought
not
that was
yet.
going to happen.
The crowd wanted it, but yeah, he was just
Mm.
standing there watching the whole.
Well, after that, The Rock is interviewed, and the fat ass interviewing The Rock says it's time. And Rock holds up his hand, says 12 long months. After everything thrown at The Rock, after everything, The Rock is thrown right back. The Rock says if he can do it all over again, he will say, finally, The Rock has come back to WrestleMania. Rock says it's not about the glitz and the glamour. It's not about Stephanie being married to Triple H. It's not about McMahon family bullshit. It's not about Foley's retirement. It sure as hell ain't about the big show. It's about the WWF Championship. Rock says if he can sweat and bleed, then he can go out and lay the smack it down on everyone's candy asses. Because tonight is the night. John Coffey, Martin Short, and Screech from Saved by the Bell were filmed in the crowd. Cool.
Screech not being Screech is still weird to me.
Yeah. Mick Foley with Linda McMahon versus The Giant with Shane McMahon versus The Rock with Vince McMahon versus Triple H with Stephanie McMahon in a fatal four-way for the WWF Championship. And Linda brought Foley to WrestleMania because it was the right thing to do. And Foley is also an author now. Triple H does his water bottle spit thing. First time we see that, I think. Rock, Triple H, and Foley briefly join forces to whoop on the Giant. And Rock runs into the ropes and Shane trips him. Rock socks Shane, and then Foley nails Giant with a chair. Rock hits Giant with a rock bottom 1, 2, 3. Those WCW guys making a good showing this pay-per-view, aren't they? Giant calls Vince a son of a bitch on his way out. And then it's Foley versus The Rock versus Triple H. And then Triple H tries to form an alliance with Foley. And Foley says, no way, man. Then Triple H tries to form an alliance with The Rock, who was just standing there the whole time Triple H tried to form an alliance with Foley. But The Rock says, okay. But sucker punches Triple H when he turns his back. So Rock and Foley double team Triple H. Foley tosses Rock a ring bell to use on Triple H. Naturally, The Rock ends up hitting Foley instead. And Triple H gets the advantage by whooping on The Rock. And Foley grabs a 2x4 wrapped in barbed wire. But Triple H kicks him in the dick and steals it. Rock saves Foley after Triple H only hits him once with the 2x4. I think he only hit him in the gut. Oh, only hit him in the gut. He only hit him in the gut with barbed wire, pussy.
Yeah.
Foley gets the mandible claw on Triple H, and Rock tells Foley to toss Triple H his way so he can nail him with the title belt. Rock attempts to go for a people's elbow, but Foley, like a dumb fuck, gets Rock in the mandible claw. And Triple H ends up hitting both men in the dick. And Vince slides a chair into the apron, seemingly for The Rock to use. Foley got Rock with the butterfly DDT, and JR called it a double arm suplex. And Foley ends up picking up the chair Vince slid in, but Rock kicks it into Foley's face. Foley finally forms an alliance with Triple H against The Rock. Foley and Triple H double team The Rock for a while. They set The Rock up on the Spanish announce desk, and Foley climbs the top rope and dives and misses The Rock by like a couple inches. Jared's like, hey, crushed a sternum. Triple H tried to save it by elbow dropping The Rock on the announce table. Of course, the table didn't break. Triple H says, fuck it, climbs the barricade, delivers another elbow drop, and the announce desk grudgingly falls over in the safest way possible. Some idiot tried to start a holy shit chant. Triple H breaks the alliance with Foley by hitting him with a pedigree for 2 in the middle of the ring. And Triple H smacks Foley in the head with a chair. Triple H delivers another pedigree to Foley on the chair. And Linda said, oh, God, no. And Triple H pins Foley while JR screams, you can do it, Nick. And Triple H ends Foley's evening and possibly his career. And Foley makes the leave. He's holding his arms up to the crowd. They're cheering and thanking him. Linda's patting Foley on the back, saying, you tried your best. That's all I can ask. Foley then stops, turns his head to the ring with a twinkle in his eye, and he goes back the way he came. And he finds the 2x4 wrapped with barbed wire. He gets in the ring and nails Triple H in the face with it. Then he leaves. So it's down to Triple H and The Rock. They eventually fight their way up the entrance ramp. Then they fight their way through the crowd. Rock tosses Triple H over the barricade ringside. Some little twerp tries to tell The Rock to stay still so he can take a picture. Rock tries to use the stairs on Triple H, but Triple H counters with a steel chair. And Triple H does a pile driver on the steel steps. JR's like, he's only 27. He'll fight again. Stop the match. That's enough. Triple H drags Rock's dead weight into the ring and makes the cover. And JR says, he can't even defend himself. This match needs to be stopped.
Speaking of 27, though, just real quick, they also pointed out that Mick Foley was only 34.
Wow.
That was a jarring number to hear, since he looks like he's 50.
So Triple H drags The Rock into the ring, makes the cover, but The Rock gets his shoulders up. And then Rock goes for a rock bottom, but Triple H counters it into a pedigree. Then The Rock dumps Triple H's ass out of the ring. They fight outside through the crowd again. Triple H dumps The Rock over the barricade, and a stupid fan tries to get in Triple H's face. Triple H grabs the stupid hat the fan is wearing and tosses it by the ring so he can't get it. He's got to ask security who will ignore him. Then they fight on the floor for a while. Vince and Stephanie look on concerned. Rock suplexes Triple H through the real announce table and exploded into smithereens. And Triple H throws The Rock into the ring. Vince starts throwing hands. Then he rams Triple H into the ring post. Then Shane decks Vince from behind and puts him through the already destroyed announce desk, which is weird. And Shane nails Vince in the head with the monitor. And Stephanie just stares wide-eyed and slack-jawed. And Hebner starts yelling at Shane. And Shane says, I do what I want. And Vince manages to get up. He has a murderous look for Shane. And he starts to whoop Shane's ass. And Shane hits Vince in the dick, nails him with a chair, and then he bows up to John Coffey, who says, come on, I want you to do it, come on. I wouldn't fuck with John Coffey. And Patterson and Briscoe help busted open Vince to his feet. Meanwhile, The Rock and Triple H remember that they're wrestling, start to get back to it. Triple H hits Rock with the barbed wire 2x4. Shane gets in the ring with a chair and leaves it ambiguous as to who he's going to hit. Rock then sends Triple H into Shane. Rock hits Triple H with a rock bottom. And Shane gets to his feet, makes to go after Hunter. Vince comes running back, gets in the ring, punches Shane in the testicles, and then slaps him. And Vince slaps Shane again, and then sends him head over ass outside the ring. Vince then grabs Shane's chair as The Rock and Triple H get to their feet. Vince goes to nail Triple H, but changes course at the last second, hits The Rock in the face with the chair. Stephanie looks on in shock. Triple H slowly crawls to cover The Rock. Shane is fucked. He won't be making a difference anytime soon. And Hebner starts yelling at Vince. Vince just grins at him. And Vince then tells ringside to hand him the belt while Triple H makes the cover. But The Rock kicks at it too. Vince picks up the chair and nails Rock in the head again. Triple H makes the cover 1, 2, 3. Vince kicks The Rock out of the ring, then hugs Stephanie. Then trash starts flying. They don't throw trash anymore, man.
Yeah, I don't know if they're allowed to.
Probably not, because they're pussies. Shane gets in the ring and is like, you hit me, Dad. And Vince is like, well, you hit me. And then Rock comes to, sees what's going on. Then he heads back to the ring. Shane tries to head The Rock off, but he gets rock bottom. Rock then whoops on Vince, nails him with a rock bottom. Stephanie goes to tend to her father, and The Rock stops and just stares at her. Stephanie sees The Rock staring at her and starts yelling at him. Then Stephanie gets in The Rock's face and slaps him. So Stephanie gets rock bottom. JR says, the whole damn McMahon family have been rock bottom straight to WrestleMania, all the way to hell. And someone's shoes are in the ring. I rewound it. I didn't see Vince or Shane lose a shoe. So that means somebody threw a fucking shoe in the ring.
Yeah, they didn't think that one out. Just what are they going to do now?
Well, unless they took somebody else's shoe.
Oh, that'd be a good move.
Yeah.
Hey, let me see your shoe. Then you throw it.
I'm going to do something real quick.
Fuck?
The Rock then hits Stephanie with the people's elbow. Man, she was sexy. And Rock leaves, and Mania ends with the McMahons dismantled. And this also marks the first time a heel has won the WrestleMania main event.
Well, there you go. Guess it was going to happen at some point, but that's crazy that it took this long.
That was WrestleMania 2000. And after, The Rock continued to feud with Triple H over the title belt, and Rock actually beat Triple H in a non-title match. The following week, Rock defeated Big Boss Man and Bull Buchanan in a handicap steel cage match, after which Triple H, Shane, and Vince McMahon attacked The Rock, and I guess he bled a lot. So later, it was announced that The Rock would face Triple H for the championship belt at Backlash, which The Rock won, with the help from Stone Cold Steve Austin and Linda McMahon. Also, the next Raw after WrestleMania, Eddie Guerrero defeated Chris Jericho to win the European Championship with the help from China. China turned on Jericho to align herself with Guerrero.
His Latino heat finally worked.
Yep. And Crash Holly won the Hardcore Championship from Hardcore Holly. And that is our Wrestling Rewind.
Overall, pretty good second half of the pay-per-view.
I was expecting to hate the whole thing from top to bottom, but it was entertaining. It's not something I would go back and watch again.
Well, I remember the WrestleMania 2000 game at
Mm-hmm.
64. It brought back some memories there. But after the first two matches, after the hardcore match, really, it picked up for me.
Well, I'd say the obvious match of the night for me would be the triple threat match for both belts.
I would actually put it on the triple threat, the tag title match.
All right.
But on that note, if you agree with anything, let us know in the comments below. If you disagree with anything, let us know in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, get us to 500 subscribers. Have a good night and happy Cinco de Mayo if that's your thing.